Hello, everybody. This is Brian West. We're going to go ahead and get started here in just a few seconds. I want to thank everybody for joining on this conference call, this webinar. And this is a 30-minute webinar today. If you've been on some in the past, we've been usually going about an hour, but we're going to keep this one to 30 minutes. If you have any questions, you can send them through the chat. If I don't know, I think it's just myself doing this one today. So if I don't know the answer, certainly we'll make sure to find out. Before I do get started though, I want to remind everybody, this is not a call for the media. So if you were a part of the media, you would please jump off the call. This is a call specifically for employers, and we'll be covering our recovery and return efforts. So again, if you're part of the media, I'm going to ask you to jump off the call. So welcome. Again, this is Ryan West, Deputy Director, Iowa Workforce Development. This isn't a huge group, which is okay. Sorry, I was reading the question already. But that's okay. So we should have some time for some questions. So I'm going to go ahead and get started. So obviously, you know, this is an interesting time. We've been into this almost, I think, 2 months now. It's kind of hard to believe it's been the longest 2 months, I think, for everybody. It's hard to keep track of it anymore. We've had a lot of changes, and both claimants and employers, or claimants/employees in the state of Iowa, have done a phenomenal job in working through this. The public, I mean, working through this. I know it hasn't been easy. Certainly state agency staff have really been pressed to work extended hours to get as much done as they can. So it's been a collaborative effort all the way around. Now, as we start to kind of go into that phase where we're down one side of a hill, now we're going to start climbing up the other, which is recovery and return. And from a perspective of being here around 2009, 8, 9, 10, when we were in the recession, there are some similarities in what we think how this will kind of go. Meaning, the recovery part is the long part. That's the part for us that kind of is the tougher part, quite honestly. And so what we want to do is try to jump on and get out in front and explain some of this. What we're going to talk about is all in our administrative rule or on our website. It's kind of just kind of a refresher on a lot of stuff. I know we've started to get several questions on people not returning to work and who they should contact, and we'll cover that in here as well. So let's go ahead and get started. So here's what we're going to cover. Unemployment insurance requirements, by the way, whenever you see UI, that's unemployment insurance. So UI requirements, job offers / return to work, what is suitable work, report work refusal, unemployment insurance fact-finding interviews, other items to consider, resources available, and contact information. So let's go ahead and jump right into this. So unemployment insurance / UI requirements for job offers. So under the rules that are in place that kind of filter down from federal guidance, quite honestly, remember, before we get even started into this, unemployment insurance is a federal program. It's important to know, because when you hear things like the CARES Act and all these other things that are going on, that's administered at the federal level. They put out this huge CARES Act bill, then it goes through the Department of Labor to be fleshed out down to the states. And each state does it a little different, although we have some things that we all have to follow the same way. Able and available is one of those. So the claimant must, claimant/employee, when we're talking about claimant, we're talking about potentially your employees, accept suitable work, be able and available for work, with the bullet point caveat there, may be waived for certain COVID-19 related conditions while receiving pandemic unemployment assistance. And so those would be if obviously individuals are off because of COVID-19. And that's been what we've been following since this kind of started to break loose in mid-March. But as in theory, things should start to slowly go back. And so in a perfect world, obviously that stuff would start to condense and be unemployed due to no fault of their own. So those are the basic things. We've just added in that green bullet point there, just because there are certain circumstances where you would be waived for work. And what that means is you don't have to do work searches while you're off. So you're not going to do those 2 job contacts. Or if you're in the union, you're not going to do your 1 job search contact. That's what union members who are off are required to do. So Job offer, and I apologize on this a little bit. Some of our PowerPoints here, we did this in the Google Drive, if you're familiar. And when you extrapolate it out to Word, it kind of throws things off a little bit. So bear with us here. But job offers, return to work. So make personal contact with the employee to offer job to ensure they receive the job offer. So this ensures the employee has the opportunity to be aware of the job and accept work to return to the workplace. So what we mean by that is, it should be somebody within the corporation, the business, that is in the habit of making offers to jobs. So shouldn't just be kind of a random text. You want to make sure, although you can do a text after, you want to make sure that you've crossed all your T's and dotted all your I's to make a suitable offer. Very rarely does this happen. There's in the past, I've been aware of some circumstances where just through reading some of the case law where people did not make really a suitable offer. So you want to make sure that you're offering that individual, they clearly know what the requirements are for the job. Maintain proof of job offer if the employee declines. So that's gonna, in normal circumstances, that would be if somebody you extend a job offer and somebody doesn't just take it. This one's a little different, excuse me, because obviously we're talking more about somebody who's working for you off for COVID. You're now wanting people to come back, and then they decline to come back for the job. And it's not deemed that they are eligible to based on the fact that they don't have suitable documentation that it's a COVID-19 related situation. So what is suitable work? So it's comparable work to prior employment. So you're bringing an individual back to work the same shift. So if somebody works a hypothetical, guys, 8 to 4, right? And you bring them back after this, and you're going to ask them to come back and work the midnight shift. That wouldn't be the same thing. Same work. So if you have somebody who's an accountant and you want to bring them, and when they went off, and you're going to bring them back and you want them to work in the warehouse, working the machine, it's got to be in the kind of comparable same platform that they were doing before. It's pretty self-explanatory. Understanding the judgment there, excuse me, by the employer is key. Paying hours. We talked about the hours, similar to prior employment. So you don't want to set somebody off if they're making $20 an hour and then bring them back at $15 an hour. That's the difference, obviously. And then ensuring safety of employees returning. And obviously that's one here that's a key point because of obviously the COVID-19 stuff. And it's tough with a lot of this. There's no doubt about it. Understanding you want the safety of your employees to be paramount, but you got to ensure that your employees understand that you are doing everything you can to make it as safe as possible in your facility as well. So just some key things there on what suitable work is. So this is kind of the biggie here. That one of the questions that we're getting a lot over the past couple of weeks is, how do you report a work refusal? Excuse me. And we have a link here. This video recording. Gosh, I don't know how many Zoom recordings I've done, you guys, and I cannot talk on this one. I apologize. This Zoom recording webinar is being recorded, and we'll put that back up on the website, and then whatever Q&As we have, we'll put those on there too. So, but this is the portal, and when you click on this link here, if you want to copy it down real quick, you should be able to search report work refusal on the website. And then we also have a banner. We have a lot of banners out there right now, actually, but you're just going to go in and you fill out the form and it comes directly to us. And that's how we're treating these. And so if you have something that you need to talk about over the phone, that's fine. We're going to ask you to call our customer service line, and that is 866-239-0843. But for most cases, I believe you should be able to put those directly through your link there. So, what you're going to have to do here is make sure that you're reporting it when everybody's kind of fitting into those lines that have been painted. And it's tough. I get it. There's two sides of this, obviously, but you want to make sure if you've asked your employee to come back to work, they're not off for a COVID-19 related issue, or if they were off and now you're bringing folks back, as we're starting to slowly see there's going to be more stuff obviously opening up in the state this week. and your individuals don't want to, we need you to report them to us. What then will happen is we go through the process of investigating it and most likely conducting a fact-finding interview, which we'll talk about. I'm assuming probably a lot of you folks on here have been on a fact-finding interview. This is the first step in that process. So let's jump into the fact-finding then. So I am pretty sure that most of you have been on a fact-finding, but here are the type of details that we'll look for. You know, was there an actual job opening? Was there an actual offer of work made? Who made the offer? When was the offer made? How was the offer made? Proof of the offer. What type of work, duties, hours, and wages? Is this type of work similar to prior work or substantial different? Reason for job refusal. So, you know, you can use this as a guide to have it. I know there's a lot of information on there, but this is how it's really always been, no different. But we're just maybe seeing a heightened level of these because of the circumstances. So this would be some questions that you would want to know or have down documented, or at least partially to the best of your ability. And it's no different for the employer, the claimant. You know, we suggest to them, you know, if they're making an offer, you know, you don't agree with it, you got to make sure that you have all the information that's been stated. You know, you can never go wrong by mailing one of these, by emailing. You know, you just want to be able to ensure that you have proper documentation. It's no different than any other fact-finding interview for both an employer or an employee. So these are kind of some of the details, or the details that we're going to be looking for. So these are the other things to consider. Review public health standards for your business. I'll read these all first. Avoid allowing conditions for unsafe work conditions. Consider reasonable exceptions to alter schedule or telework opportunities if possible. So I want to start with the bottom one first, because, you know, as somebody who's been in the state for you know, almost 12 years now, I think, you know, we'll see more of this from a state agency side. And, you know, when a state, and I didn't think we'd see that, quite honestly. The reason I'm starting off with state agencies is because, you know, I think you really got to look at making those opportunities available. Unfortunately, right or wrong, you got to kind of find some medium ground in some of this. I think that's will help. Sometimes that's not possible either. I'm not suggesting as an employer you change your whole process, but I think you got to look at some things different. I think we'll see more and more of this from most entities. So, you know, that's something you really need to think about in these situations. Are there things you can do through telework to get your individual back to work? Maybe if it's even from home for a little bit. A lot of cases, scenarios that may not be possible. Obviously, if they're working in manufacturing, that may not be possible. So construction, understand. But, you know, so let's skip up to number 2. Avoid allowing conditions for unsafe working conditions. So, you know, you're going to want to make sure that you got social distancing correct, that you have a clear and concise plan on your individuals when they're in your facility. No different from when we open our Iowa Works offices around the state. You know, one of the things we're game planning on right now is, you know, do we have people wait? Because, you know, it's walk-in traffic. Do we have people wait in line? I mean, obviously we do, but the spacing, you know, our protective gear for our employees, all of that stuff. It's a lot, but that's kind of where we're at. And I think that, you know, by doing that helps you. In your case, if you're suggesting, hey, we've done all these things and our employees still won't come back to work. So just make sure you're covering all your bases on that stuff. And then review public health standards for your business. So, you know, I'm not a public health expert by any means. There's a website specifically for that, and I really encourage you to go over and look at what they have on there. Just make sure that, you know, you have everything in place that you need to have in place. I think probably a lot of what's transpired over those 2 months it's going to require some businesses to change their setup, quite honestly. I just don't think people have any choice. So it's weird because you really can't, you know, I'm in Des Moines, and most places you go to in Des Moines, I've noticed, or a lot of them, or even I'm in a suburb of Des Moines, there's lines on the ground everywhere. So I think more and more, it's just kind of become the norm. So I don't want to overstate the obvious. That's not what I'm trying to say. I just make sure you're taking this into consideration. and make sure you're covering that with your employee. Because your employees are on the other side of it, and they want to make sure, obviously, that they're safe to come back, and rightfully so. So this is no way just one street. It's when you've done that, all of that, then the employee still doesn't want to come back for whatever reason. That's where you can say, look, I've done all this, I've communicated with them, and that's really kind of the new norm we're under. Resources available. So we have a lot of resources, probably more than humanly possible. We have a lot of them out there. We really do. And it's a real testament to how much stuff has come out over the last 2 months. So make sure you're checking our iowaworkforcedevelopment.gov website. That's where you need to go to submit your document anyway, your fraud stuff. But when you go out there, this is the homepage. Sorry, I'm tongue tied today. You had individual, business, right, and COVID-19. So individual, just so you know, anybody who's going to file for unemployment insurance is going to come through here, whether they've had regular wages earned or they're a small business, whatever. This is more of your employer side of stuff. So this is where you'd be filing your quarterly tax reports, all of that jazz. My Iowa UI, if you're familiar with that, and the COVID-19 is where we have a lot of information. So you can try all three of them. COVID-19 is going to have a lot, and so is the individual, but COVID-19 is the bulk. And there's a lot of banners down in here on our homepage, so you really just kind of have to go through it and check that stuff. So those are some available online resources. And then, of course, the employer handbook. Now, we have a claimant handbook and an employer handbook. If you do not have the employer handbook, I strongly suggest you get that. I also suggest you get the claimant handbook. There's enough information on the claimant handbook for you to be a real dangerous expert for unemployment insurance. It really does have everything you need. What happens is so many people just fail to read it. I don't really disagree. I mean, if you're not working in unemployment insurance, I don't know if I would read the handbook either, but a lot of information that can make you help both sides. And that's, what you're required to do as an employer. So there's like, just type employer handbook. When you do that, it'll bring up the claimant handbook as well. You can download it. It's just a PDF, and away you go. So really good resource for you to kind of know what's going on for all things job refusals and suitable work and all that stuff. Same with the claimant handbook as well. Okay, sorry, I didn't know we had this one. This is the claimant handbook. This one's in English and Spanish. So if you have Spanish speaking individuals, I believe we have the employer handbook in Spanish as well. I didn't mean to skip over that, but so Spanish in this one as well. And they're both updated. They've really been consolidated, the claimant ones. We used to have a lot of information in there that I don't necessarily know if really needed to be in there. And so our real focal point was, let's get down to the basics so people aren't overwhelmed by looking at this document. So another great resource that you can have on hand for your individual claimants as well, employees. I mean, you can just email it to them if you would like. Contact information. So if you need to call us, there is an employer customer service line. It's more for your tax stuff, though. It's not going to be for COVID-19 related stuff. So for COVID-19 related, you're going to want to go through our 866-239-0843. And I'm very happy to announce that our calls are way down, which is common in situations like this where we've started up the big mountain, and once you start to get over it, and then things start to kind of balance out, which is good because, we want people to be able to get through as quickly as they can. You can email the UI Claims Help inbox, and then don't forget about the iowaworkforcedevelopment.gov website and the portal that's available. And I'm going to go right back here because I'm going to show you. Remember, this is the portal. You can get right through there through iowaworkforcedevelopment.gov, and that's our main website. The other thing I want to do, I think I have one of my counterparts on here, and I want to throw in a plug for iowaworks.gov. So if you haven't checked out iowaworks.gov, that's a great thing just to be familiar with as well. Just to know, Iowa Works is under the umbrella of Iowa Workforce Development. So just get out there and check that out. There's a lot of good information on there as well to help you really facilitate both sides of the house. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and go back here. So we talked about the claimant handbook, customer service. So that's all I have for today, guys. I got a question here. I'm going to go ahead and read this one out loud. Can self-employed business owners file for partial employment if business hours days are reduced upon reopening or sales are down due to capacity restrictions? If so, how to answer the question about did you earn wages this week? Most self-employed do not take a weekly wage. How will this be determined? So that's a lengthy one, so I'm going to start at the beginning here. So can self-employed business owners file for partial unemployment if business hours days are reduced upon reopening or sales are down? Yes, in theory you can. Here's the thing you have to look at as a business owner. So we have plenty of business owners who report wages on themselves, and they will file for unemployment, and I'm assuming a lot of them did through this past 2 months, and will qualify. There's a administrative rule that allows business owners to do it if they claim wages on themselves. So they would qualify through the normal circumstances. Now, if you don't do that, then you may qualify under PUA, the PUA, which is the Pandemic Unemployment Assistance. I would suggest, again, go out to iowaworkforcedevelopment.gov and look at the stipulations there. But I would suggest if you're in question, go ahead and file the claim. And remember, you're going to go through that section of the website that is right here, right through the individual. Now, and you'll file through here. And then what the information that you would need. So if you know as a small business owner, you haven't claimed any wages on yourself, then you're going to want to look after you file what you're going to need through here in COVID, or look here first, go through right here, and there's a specific spot for PUA, PUA, and that'll tell you what you need to submit, because you got to submit some other information as a small business owner. So, or business owner, I don't mean to infer that you're a small business owner, but so, your W-2s, it's listed out there. So that's the first part. If so, how to answer the question about did you earn wages this week? Most self-employed do not take weekly wage. How will this be determined? So we have information out there on that. I'm going to, I'll follow up, don't put that in the Q&A to make sure we have a good answer on that one for you. So I would just say get your stuff going, because you're not going to have to file your wages. This Sunday would be your first day to file if you file today, but most likely your claim won't be on the system yet, so you'll have another whole week. We'll have that answer for you. So that the key already fine. Okay, gotcha. So, Lori, why don't you do me a favor? Go ahead and email me at ryan.west@iwd.iowa.gov, and Iowa spelled out. Send that one over to me and we'll get you a good answer. I was hoping the first answer, or the first question, would be one that I could answer all the way. At least I didn't let myself down on that one. Okay, so we have, I think that's all we got for questions. This was a lot shorter one, you guys, I realize. And I think really the bulk of what we wanted to try to do here was to explain to employers, really what you're up against. You got more involved in this, because you got to make sure your facility's safe, obviously, and then you got to make sure your individual employees know about that. Got to make sure it's documented, so that you have everything you need to for fact finding and to dispute that your individual employee wasn't coming to work when you believe you've followed all the regulations and rules. Okay, so we haven't had any more guidance from the Department of Labor on anything else for quite a few weeks. So it appears that everything's on track. Like they said, I think there was a bigger bill, another one, the HEROES Act bill that was talked about. I don't know where that one's at, but at this point, everything that's been in place that was talked about or that's out on the website, that's still all in place. So we're almost at our time. Well, I think what we're going to do is we'll do another one of these next week, and hopefully we can just continue it, even if it's a smaller group. That's okay. For helping some people, that's better than none. And the unemployment can be kind of confusing, and unfortunately, it's not. There's just so much involved in it. So, Lori, if you want to send me your question, we'll get yours taken care of. I want to thank everybody for coming on and making time. We'll edit this recording, all my ums and ahs, and then we'll send it out. So, okay, guys. Thank you very much. Have a wonderful Memorial Day weekend.